Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and this is 7:41 in the morning on the 4th of September. Taking a look at the forecast for everything that's going on. We've got a couple of tropical systems that are underway, as well as the storms that I was previously covering last night. That is now moving into the southeast region, well, kind of Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, and up into Illinois as well. And so you can see those storms kind of breaking into those areas. Tornado threat is pretty low, but in this marginal 2% risk area, there's going to be the possibility for some heavier winds, as well as torrential rainfall and possibly some hail that's going to be attributed with these. You can see that cold front there that's going to be just kind of pushing down through a low pressure system here. All right, so down here in the southeast, though, I was covering this last night with this tropical disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico here, now moving into the low pressure system at that cold front that's going to be right here. So now it's in that process where it's moving across that cold front, and its movement is pretty rapid. You can see, from the last couple of days how far that it's moved north, pretty quickly rather. Still sitting there at the low chance, 30% chance of tropical storm formation. Louisiana has a heat advisory in lower Louisiana area right here. So got to be mindful of that. It's going to get pretty warm right there, and with all that warmth and the moist water vapor from the Gulf of Mexico lifting up into the atmosphere, most of the time that's what strengthens these tropical systems into hurricanes. Warm water vapor is like throwing gas on a flame, you know what I mean, just empowering the storm. It's just fuel for it, you know what I mean, with these hurricanes and tropical systems. So that's something that was a little bit concerning to me, especially, with these people that have already just been hit by Hurricane Ida, trying to recuperate from that. You know what I mean? I was kind of hoping that it wouldn't be too bad for them, maybe just a rainstorm or something like that, give them the chance to, make some kind of recovery, since a lot of destruction happened there from Ida. I was covering this Hurricane Larry last night, which is now sitting at a Category 3 hurricane that's moving up towards the U.S. Atlantic coast. Now sitting at a hurricane Category 3. It's supposed to be moving into a Category 4. It looks like tomorrow. So over the midnight hours of tonight, going into the 5th, and then it seems like for the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, so about the next 3 days, it's going to be Category 4, and then it looks like the Hurricane Center, National Hurricane Center is anticipating it's going to dissipate to a Category 3 far before it reaches the U.S. Atlantic coast. Still making kind of like that curve in the track there, so if it continues that kind of curve in the track, I mean, it might just, kind of turn around, or might go up towards Nova Scotia and Brunswick area right there. So I would assume, just from looking at this, that this is probably going to be the primary area where you're going to have to deal with a lot of those heavy rains and things like that, as attributed with this system. Depending on what it does, a lot of things can change in the next 3 or 4 days, or in the next 5 days. So it's going to be a little bit of, a little while before it reaches the coast, obviously, but a lot of things can change. So just looking at its far development as it kind of treks along. So with these storms out in the Midwest here, it doesn't look like anything that's really alarming to me. There is some sections where you can see this very heavy yellow. I'll go to the classic radar here and see if we can see a little bit more details. Excuse me. So as I play this, you see that there's some lightning attributed with this as well. There's a little bit of lightning that's going on there. You see these reds and these yellows. That's where you're going to get your highest torrential rainfall, possibly some hail attributed with this, but we're going to take a look at some other data and see what exactly we're looking at here. All right, so with this bearing in mind, this is the current conditions that we have going on. So you can see these fronts that are going to be pushing in these areas. This one here attributed with those storms in the Midwest, and moving into the southeast region. You can see that warm sector there. Temperatures dropped a little bit from what we looked at yesterday. I mean, some of these places were still in the 80s, but we're still looking at the 70s, high 70s. high 60s in other areas. So that's still pretty warm up there for some convection to to come alive here with that warmth. And these dew points still looking at 70s and high 60s in dew points. So you definitely got that wet sector that's still there, and that's going to be helpful for the caps to break and storms to develop with all that moisture there. It's also going to do better for your hail chances with all that moisture going up into the air, especially with it cooler. You know what I mean? A lot of that warm and that warm air and that high dew points and moisture going up into the atmosphere. That's going to be supportive of your hail threats here. Looks like Cape tapered off a little bit. Looking at about 1,000 average for Cape, which is, still pretty unstable in some areas there, but it doesn't look as bad as it did last night, which was a lot of thousand. There was about 2,000 somewhere in the panhandle of Texas here. So it looks like it dropped a little bit. That wind shear, you can tell, is really picking up as it's kind of coming across to the east, getting 50-knot wind shear, which is supportive, you know what I mean, for some high winds, possibly damaging winds. In a normal case, it would be supportive for tornadoes, but I don't really see a whole lot of that threat really being at a high level here. So surface vortice, getting these little spots, low surface vortice. It's not terrible, and then most of this is attributed with the tropical systems and whatnot that we have in the Gulf of Mexico as well as the Atlantic. Supercell composites on the low end, but it isn't zero. So there is some supercell development that might happen in these areas, although it doesn't look like it's very high on the scale. Tornado parameter is very, very low. So that's what I was talking about. The tornado threat looks pretty marginal, you know what I mean? It's very minimal in these areas right now. It's barely there. And the helicity actually dropped off a little bit. There was some helicity that was left over last night, kind of on the corner of Missouri and Kansas, kind of right here in this area right there. But that helicity looks like it has dropped down a little bit, so that's a good thing. And LCL height still at the low end where these storms are kind of forming at. So that's your lifting condensation height there. So that's that doesn't verbatim mean that you're going to have like the most horrible storms ever, because some regions, you can have terrible LCL, but everything else can be just fine. All right, so looking at that, this is our convection outlooks from the National Weather Service for today. So there's that 2% marginal risk that is attributed on this map here, going through Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, up into the southwest corner of Illinois, and you can see that clearly right there. All right, so that's going to be mostly for your wind chances, and hail is actually less than 5% all areas. I think that the hail threat, if I had to take an educated guess, I think it's going to be in very minimal isolated positions or locations. And if you do get hail, it's going to be dime or penny size hail, still enough to put dings in your car and possibly damage some property though. So definitely want to make sure that your property is secured and taken care of, and you have a plan for your family to get under cover and under shelter if that does happen. With the wind threat, you do have a wind threat all throughout this 2% marginal risk that's going on here. So even with the wind threat, you still could have some damaging winds. You don't need a tornado to have some damage to your property and things like that. So definitely going to keep an eye on that. All right, and then for day 2 and day 3, it looks like it's going to clear up a little bit. Just just general thunderstorms at that point going on. This is the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. Pretty much the same as what we were looking at last night. Still, Hurricane Larry is at a Category 3 now, as far as I can understand. Maybe they haven't updated this yet. They might not have. They might do it later as developments kind of arise as they go along. But this is still at sustained 115 mile an hour winds, 965 millibar pressure. So and it's moving at 16 miles an hour to the northwest. Yeah, so this is that region that we're looking at is probably going to be the primary region in the northeast where it's going to be affecting most of the people in this area here. So pivotal weather, we're looking at the current hazards, and there's that flood watch with actually some flood warnings that are in here, accompanied with the torrential rainfall. Got some other flood warnings that are in some isolated areas from some of the storms that have been left over. Heat warnings out in the west as well with the droughts and everything, as well as in Louisiana. All right, and the Gulf of Mexico has a lot to do with that, with the systems that are going to be in those areas. Let's see if our models are working. Alrighty, so models are working. We're going to take a look at HRR and take a look at what's going to happen here. Now, you don't see anything accompanied with this tropical system that is in the Gulf, but basically where this little circle of light green is here, this is where that tropical system is at. Let's go to, oh man, their site has been kind of goofy for the last 12 hours or so. I think that they're having problems with their site, so I apologize for that. So where I'm not getting accurate models, but where that green little circle was, that was on that model that we were looking at through HRR. That's where this low pressure system is accompanied with this tropical system that is moving up through the Gulf. So it looks like it's making that curve into the southeast, so Alabama, Panhandle to Florida, and probably some of southwest Georgia. You know, get ready for that. Hopefully it's just going to be some rain, just rainstorms, and hopefully nothing very serious coming out of this. But we still got about another 3 or 4 days before we see any real adverse development on that. And as we looked at this radar last night, you can see now how close, you know what I mean, the track is that they have anticipated for Hurricane Larry as it's moving up. It hasn't really moved that far from where we were last night. This is the 2 right here is where we were looking at it when it was last night. Okay, so let me turn on the high def radar so that you can actually see it on radar there. There it is. Alright, so that's where it was last night. This is where it is now. So even though it says, you know, 14 miles an hour, something like that, it still seems like it's moving fairly quickly, and it's got a nice, you know, you can't really see it on the high def radar because it's pretty far away, so that's why it's kind of goofing up right there. But with all that movement that's going on, you got a nice strong vortice in that, and it's rotating pretty quick. So that's where you're getting that 115 mile an hour sustained hurricane force winds that are in that. So so yeah, we're really hoping that it does dissipate to a Category 3 by the time it reaches the United States East Coast. Definitely before it reaches her here, you know, hopefully it'll weaken a lot more. But it's got to go through, you know, there's some two alpha boundary lines that are here, as well as some cold fronts that are going to be in the way. It's got to cross, so hopefully it won't intensify as it crosses these fronts and these lines, especially going all the way up here. It's almost like this entire system is connected to a low pressure system that's up there, you know, going up to the northern Atlantic here. So alright, so that is the current update for right now. I'm going to keep an eye on things, and if anything happens to come about with new developments, I will make another video and update you guys on what's going on, and I hope that everybody enjoys their Saturday. Thanks for watching.